was it doing to him?
It's imitating his cells. What are you saying? Not all of us are human. We can't let this thing leave.
This 100% is a worthy sequel, okay? And I'm screaming at the top of my lungs here. Everybody hates this movie because it's CGI versus CGI. Like as if watching CGI is gonna give them a goddamn heart attack. F off. Obviously, I'm not saying it's better than the original. The original is one of the greatest movies of all time. I mean, for God's sake, it's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Nothing will touch the original, but to live in this fantasy that this prequel is not worthy of watching is ludicrous. This is a good movie. I don't know why people hate on it so much. It is underrated. And let me just say something. When The Thing, the John Carpenter thing, originally came out, everybody hated the movie, okay? It was not critically acclaimed. Critics were hating on it. It did not do well in the box office. People did not like the movie when it came out. It was not a success, and it was only later that it amassed a cult following. It's one of the greatest and most admired movies nowadays. But that happened later, and I'm really hoping that the same thing will happen with this film, where like when it came out, it was not a box office success. People were not critically raving about it, but I hope with time, and I think there's been enough time now, it's almost been 2 decades, 20 years since this movie has been released. I think people need to start putting respect on this movie. This is a fantastic sci-fi horror movie. It is entertaining, it has very good moments, and the people that were behind it really put their best foot forward. That's what people tend to forget about this movie, is that yes, the studios came in and overrode the director and their team and everything to replace everything with CGI, but originally this guy hired a team and they made all the practical effects. They really tried to make a true passion project sequel that could maybe even rival the original. I'm serious. Look at the goddamn practical effects that they made. Oh my god. This was actually the director's favorite film alongside Alien. So this was like a passion project for him, and he wanted to bring new ideas to this. And I think he successfully did, but the studios interfere, and we'll get to that later, but that doesn't mean that this movie is pure bullshit. It is a worthy sequel. Excuse me, prequel. This is not a remake, although it kind of is. We'll get into that more later. But you can tell the effort that this man put into this movie. The attention to detail is crazy. And I would literally do anything. I would pay any amount. Instead of buying a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, I would pay money to see the cut of the practical effects that they made. I want to see that version of the movie. But I love this movie. I'm going to defend it. So let's jump into it. So the movie opens up with a wide shot of Antarctica, and it is a beautiful shot where we see this grand landscape, and in the middle we see this like moving truck. It's like a snowmobile almost. And we see this man with headphones looking at this like radio with frequency on it. And whilst that is happening, there's the other two people are making a joke in a foreign language. And then the two men ask, "Hey, Olaf, what the hell are we looking for again?" And he's just like, "Never mind that, just keep going straight. We're almost at the source of the signal." And you're like, what the fuck? Then the guy in the back tells them to stop, and he's like, "We're right on top of it." And then the ice beneath them cracks open, and they fall into this like crevice, but they get like sandwiched in between the ice so they don't fall completely through. And as they get their bearings together, they look down, they put the lights on, and they see a spaceship, or at least part of it. And then we see The Thing title card, which is just as good as the original, as cool as and then we cut to Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character, who's working on a dead animal, Scott Pilgrim's girlfriend! If I'm being completely honest with you, I think she looks her hottest in this movie. I mean, that's just a stupid point to make. And fun fact, when we first see Kate dissecting that animal, she's listening to a song and it goes like this.
Who can it be now? Who can it be? Who can it be now?
Which is obviously a hint to the movie The Thing, right? Because nobody knows who's the thing, so who can it be now? It's cool. And then this guy comes into the room named Hank, which apparently is her friend, who just wanted to introduce a colleague of his, Dr. Sander Halverson, who's looking for someone that specializes in vertebrate paleontology because she's had experience extracting specimens from packed ice. And he's like, an old friend of mine, a colleague from also runs a geological research station in Antarctica. And 48 hours ago, the team found something. And she's like, oh, what'd they find? And he's like, we're going down there tomorrow to find out. And he's like, I need a paleontologist with me. And she's like, excuse me, doctor, I hope you respect the fact that I need to know a little bit more about what the hell I'm digging up. And he's like, okay, there's a structure. And she's like, a structure in Antarctica? And he's like, yeah, and a specimen. And she's like, really? And he's like, that's all I can tell you for right now. And he's like, I need your answer right now. And she's like, I'm in. And he's like, great. We then cut to a helicopter that's flying over Antarctica, which are some beautiful shots. And then we see the inside where the pilots are talking. And then one of the co-pilots signals to Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character to put on the headphones to ask her how the Cavaliers are doing. And she's like, I don't follow football. And he's like, it's a basketball team. And the main pilot tells the co-pilot that you might want to wrap up whatever you're doing in a couple days because there's a nasty storm coming in. And then we see them flying towards the camp, which is super cool. Anyways, they go straight from there to the site of what they found, and then she finally sees the spaceship, which is so grandiose. It's amazing. The guy's like, let me show you why you flew 10,000 miles down here. And then obviously the payoff was worth it. If you see a fucking spaceship, that shit buried in the ice, yeah, I'm traveling to Antarctica. A lot of people hate on the CGI, but the CGI in this scene is not bad. We'll get later to the monsters and the parts because there are some flaws in this movie, but right now, that's not bad at all. That is good CGI. He's like, we picked up a signal transmitting, some kind of a distress call perhaps. We think the signal got triggered when the survivor exited the craft. And then she's like, wait a minute, survivor? And then they go outside like a couple hundred yards away from the crash site, and then there's like this alien frozen in the ice, bro, which is faithful to the original because they see the crash landing site in the original and also the dug up ice that's like in a rectangle form of the survivor, which is exactly what they dug up here. This movie is a great prequel because every question that you have in the original is answered in this movie, and on top of that, it's a great, Drum Dump said this, it's a great 2-movie watch. You can watch this back to back with the original. Watch this one first and then the original because the movie ends in such a great way that you're just like, I just want to watch the next one. And the main scientist guy's like, make sure everyone stays off the radio because we don't want any information getting out. This motherfucker really wants to win the Nobel Prize for finding this shit. So then they're all talking about what the hell happened, and then one of the people are just like, wait a minute, so you crash into the glacier and then without any information you leave your ship, the confines and the comfort of your ship, to go out in the middle of Antarctica, the worst weather conditions? That doesn't seem that smart.
And the other dude's like, maybe he was hurt and wanted to find someplace warm. And I'm just like,
that doesn't make any sense. Then why would it go into the cold? I've heard people say that in the original source material that the alien is actually trapped in that spaceship.
If you read the expanded lore, the thing was actually a prisoner in the cargo hold that was picked up on a biological expedition.
That's why it tried to get out of the spaceship. It wasn't the actual pilot of that spaceship. So that makes a lot more sense that it would leave the spaceship than it's like,
oh, maybe it was cold and it wanted to find warmth. What the
And then we cut to Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character who's looking up at the star and she's like, we'll never look at them the same again because they found an alien life form. And then we cut to them transporting this big block of ice, which is the alien specimen. And the main scientist guy's like, I want to take a tissue sample from the block of ice. She's like, the conditions are so unpredictable. And he's like, whatever, take the tissue sample. So they take the tissue sample and then she walks out the room and then he chases her down like, hey, hold up a second. Don't ever contradict me in front of those men again, bitch. I mean, he doesn't say that, but that's essentially what he said. And then we cut to them all celebrating, drinking, playing pool, singing. And then the main guy comes out and he's like, we all made a monumental discovery today. We're all gonna be immortalized by it. So Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character goes up to this guy and they take a shot and she's like, you got anything better than this cough syrup? And so the guy's like, hey, go get the captain's stash. So one of the dudes goes to the helicopters to find the bottles of alcohol, and then we cut to one of the other dudes who went to the bathroom, I think, and then he hears a sound, so he goes into the room where the block of ice is, and we get this false jump scare of the guy being like, boo, but then out of nowhere the animal breaks out of the ice and breaks through the roof, which is super faithful to the original. This is what I love about this movie, is that the director really put attention to detail. If you watch the original, The Thing, when they're examining the Norwegian camp, you can see the block of ice that's like broken and like half empty, but if you pause the video right here, you can see that the roof is broken up. It's open, which is why the animal broke through the roof in this movie. Like, they set it up so well. So the guy panics, runs into the room, and he's like, bro, the thing's freaking alive. It broke out. And everyone's like, what the fuck is this man talking about? He's like, bro, this isn't a joke, come on. So they all run into the room and they see that the roof is broken and the ice is broken. They're like, what the happened? So then they all go out to try and find it, and 3 of the guys approach the helicopter and they see the doors open. He's like, Griggs, did you leave the door open? He's like, I don't remember. That's suspicious.
That's suspicious.
We then cut to some other guys who look at the den of dogs and it's just full of blood everywhere. And then these other 2 guys who hear this monster whimpering under the building, and then they find the thing and it is gross as fuck. And then it attacks the guy. It like bursts him through the chest and then pulls him in and is like eating him. First they start shooting it. It's not really doing that much, so they put some like gasoline on it and they burn it alive. And this is one of the scenes where the CGI doesn't really hold up, which is so sad because that the team actually made props for this monster. Like they actually made a practical effect for all of this stuff. Could you imagine spending months working on this at your full capacity, full effort, and then the studio's like, nah, we're not gonna use any of this? What? So then they're all like shocked at what happened, and they're like, what the hell are we gonna do with it? And then he's just like, I think we should destroy it completely. And this main scientist dude's like, I think you've contributed enough to this endeavor. And the dude's like, listen, your guy Olaf back there, he's in bad shape.
Now we're gonna fly him back to McMurdo at sunup to take him to the military hospital. And what are you gonna tell them? And he's like, the truth.
Which pisses him off, and he looks at the other Norwegian dude and they're like, anyways, we cut to them looking at the burned corpse of the whatever the fuck this creature is. And as they open this thing up, the doctor is examining it and he realizes that the tissue almost looks new. And they're like, what the fuck was it doing to him? It appears to be absorbing him some type of digestion, but they don't seem quite sure what the fuck is happening yet. They haven't wrapped their heads around it, which is what I love about this movie. They didn't immediately come up with like, oh, it's imitating him. They're just like, the tissue looks new, which is weird, but it just kind of seems like it was absorbing him. Who the fuck knows what's this happening? And that's it. They don't know that it's replicating him yet. Then we see one of the guys walk out of the room and the lady is not feeling well, so he goes up to check on her and she's like, I'm okay, and walks away. Then we cut back to Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character with the other dudes that are dissecting this organism, and she finds this metal plate and she's like, what is this? And they're like, it looks like something that's used to reinforce broken bones like compound fractures. And the other dude in the back is like, yeah, Henrik broke his arm last year. And then she's thinking about it and like, wait a minute, so it was in his arm, now it's out of his arm. This is one of my favorite details of the movie, because in a remake, you want to take elements from the original, right? But at the same time, you want to add new things, so it's not just a ripoff of the original. And in my opinion, this is one of the very neat details that a lot of people don't talk about, but this is genius because the thing can replicate you perfectly, but it can't replicate inorganic material. So this is a genius way of figuring out who's the thing and who's not the thing. If you have any metal screws in your body or fillings or anything that's not organic, it's not going to be able to replicate that. Whoever came up with that idea, kudos to you, because that is something that's not in the original that I think is even better in this movie. That was genuinely so smart. I really appreciated that little detail. I hope people notice it more and talk about it more. That is really cool. Then we cut to Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character and this other dude going to examine some of the tissue with a microscope. And here's another thing that I want to mention that might piss people off, because everybody shits on the movie like CGI, CGI, I can't stand it. Just because the first movie uses practical effects doesn't mean that all the practical effects hold up. There are scenes in that movie that don't hold up, like the stop motion scene. And another one for me that I think is better in this movie is when they look at the cells taking over and imitating the other cells. In the original, when Blair's looking at the computer, bro, that shit looks like a Tetris game. What the is that? That looks so old and outdated. You can't look me in the eyes and tell me that that scene is better than the one in the original. This one looks way better. So the other dudes are getting ready to leave in the helicopter with the guy that doesn't feel good. And then Kate goes to the bathroom and she notices these fillings at the bottom of the floor. And she notices like a ton of blood in the shower. And in that moment is when she puts 2 and 2 together, like, oh, this thing is still alive, it's imitating people, and it spits out like what it did with the other dude. So she tries to wave down the helicopter, and a lot of people seem to hate this scene because of the CGI. I will admit that this scene does not look that great. However, the first time I saw it, it wasn't that excruciating of a like flaw. But you see the guy's face open up and turn into the thing, and then the helicopter crashes and burns. And this just once again makes me want to say that it's so sad we never got to see the original cut of this film, because they actually had a real practical effect for that scene. They literally had practical effects for every scene. It was the studio that came in and was like, fuck this, let's do CGI, and replaced everything. But initially, they really went all in with the practical effects. And that's another reason why I think this movie does work very well, because They originally, the actors were looking at something. It wasn't just like a little ball right there where now act like a monster's in front of you, but there's nothing actually there. Joe Rogan talks about this a lot. But if I'm not mistaken, in this movie, they originally shot everything with practical effects, so they're actually looking and reacting to a real monster in front of them. So I think the acting does hold up, because even though they replace it with CGI, they still originally were looking at some horrendous monsters. So they're all talking about how to get out of this base, and Kate's like, I don't think that's a good idea. And they're like, why is that? And she's like, no one can leave this camp. And they're like, whoa. And the head guy's like, hey, I make decisions here. Why did you flag down that helicopter? And she's like, because I thought it was in danger. And she comes clean and explains to them that looking at the tissue sample, she thinks the alien is still alive and imitating the cells of others. And everyone's still confused, like, what the does that mean? Like, what is going on right now? And she's like, it can replicate people, like it can be literally any of us right now. And the main scientist is like, okay, calm down, we don't need anyone panicking right now. And then she shows them the fillings, but the men are like, this, we're not listening to her, we're still leaving. And she's like, no, please don't. Men. But the only other girl approaches Kate and is like, can I speak to you like in private, because I think I know something. So she goes with her, which is kind of dumb. You just explained, like, there's this alien replicating people, don't go in a room alone with someone. But I love this scene because as she's going through some stuff and talking, she in the background turns into a monster and starts attacking her, and she runs away. And as she's running out, it stabs one of the other dudes and starts eating him. Once again, I wish we saw the actual practical effect that they did use for this scene instead of the CGI. But I'm gonna be honest with you guys, the CGI is not bad in this scene. This monster totally works for me. This is an effective scene. I don't know what the hate is coming from. Dude, her stomach is open and its teeth and like little and then the stabbing, and then when she's sucking that guy's blood, bro, tell me that doesn't look horrific. So they end up burning it, and this does kind of look like a PS2 graphic, I will admit. And then they go outside and burn it even more, and she has this speech to the guys, which is exactly like the same in the original. And that is something that I need to point out. This is a prequel technically, but at the same time it is a remake, because this movie is beat for beat the same movie.
Researchers stuck in Antarctica at a base camp find a creature, it starts imitating them.
They burn one of the guys, she's having the speech just like it's literally the same movie. And usually I'm not a fan of that. Like, Predators is a beat for beat remake of the original Predator, and I hated that movie with a passion. But for some reason, maybe it's because I saw this movie with my mom and I have the nostalgia for it, but in this case, it works for me. It's not a negative. So they're like, okay, we're gonna take blood samples from everybody and test each one of them, kind of like in the original. And as she goes with one of the guys to cut the wires of the snowcat, he shows her some like grenades. And then as they're walking back, they see the two American pilots walking from that crash, and like, who the would have survived that? Nah, suspect. But instead of burning them alive, she's like, wait, we gotta give them a fair shot. At least give them the blood test. So they kind of keep them as prisoners until they can be sure that, okay, they're human. But then they find out that the blood test is ruined because it's been set on fire. So then we start seeing the paranoia kick in because everyone's accusing one another. They're like, who the did this? This is when the thing is at its best, right? When no one trusts anybody. That's awesome. But then this is when Kate comes in and she's like, okay, there's another way of doing this. And I love this. I really truly believe I'm gonna die on this hill. I'm gonna hang my hat and stand by my opinion. Them adding that detail of the metal fillings as a way to see who's the thing and who's not the thing is such a great scene. So she starts looking at everybody's mouth to see who has fillings and who doesn't, just as like a temporary solution for right now. Let's just make sure these guys are 100% human. These guys, we don't know. And this does create tension between them. A lot of people hate this scene because it's the blood test scene and nobody gets revealed. I disagree. I don't want it to be beat for beat like the original. Stray away from that. Make it different. I like that in this one, no one gets found out, and then the tension just keeps on going. You're like, okay, fuck. And then two of them go to check on the Americans, and then they find out that they escaped. And as they're walking out, he's yelling to the other guy, and he sees him get snatched up. But the guy comes back all panicked, and he's like, they got Lars. We can't trust anybody. And then they all start screaming at the guy with the flamethrower in Norwegian, which I think adds to the drama because the language barrier, you don't know what they're saying. Kate's like, don't listen to what they're saying, you have to stay on them, and they're just screaming at him. He's just like, and then they hear someone breaking in, so everyone goes, and then it's flamethrower versus flamethrower, and they're in this like standoff moment, and then they end up shooting him, and one of the guys goes to check on him, and the flamethrower explodes. So they pick up the guy that's hurt and then they bring him back into the other room and his arm breaks off into like this monster and it starts attacking one of them. This hand creature I think is one of my favorite monster designs of this movie. I don't know, it looks so creepy. Obviously none of them compared to the original monster designs of the first movie, but I really do enjoy this scene even though it's heavily CGI. Seeing the guy go to the ground and he's like, and then it starts opening up and becoming the double face guy. Oh my god, that is terrifying. One of the Americans tries to shoot it, but he gets attacked. This scene terrified me when I saw it in theaters. Now looking back on it, the CGI doesn't really hold up, which sucks because the effect that they had, the practical effects, looked so scary and good. But when he does merge his face, I mean, it does kind of look like a video game, but at the same time, that was probably as good as they could make it look back then. And this shot right here is extremely effective. Oh my gosh. I think people are way too harsh on this movie. Yes, they're not as good as the practical effects. However, that doesn't mean we have to go to the other side of the spectrum and just be like, well, the CGI is shit. But the double face thing gets away and Kate ends up burning the guy that's been attacked by the hand monster. And she also burns the other American. Now it's just her and the other American who gets an axe, which is going to set something up beautifully for the next movie. So they go hunting for the alien. They find the little hand creature. So he chops it down with the axe, but doesn't really kill it. So she burns it. And then she's like, don't touch that axe because it has blood on it. So she's like, just leave it there. Which is a cool little detail because it sets it up for the scene in the original when McReady goes to look at the camp and he sees the axe on the wall. That's another thing I love about this movie. It sets up the original so well. There's really good attention to detail. Anyways, the creature bursts out of the window and it's like right there with the guy, so he hides in the kitchen. I remember the tension in this scene. Oh, it was such a great scene. He's like in the corner and you can see in the corner of your eye the monster walking in the background, and then it finally corners him down. Bro, that scene is so good. I just wish we got the practical. Dude, I'd pay whatever money to see the practical effects version cut of this movie, but it's still good because you think he's done for, and then Kate burns it and then he gets out the way as it breaks outside and burns alive, which also sets up the original thing when they find the double-faced creature there. That's what I'm saying, this movie's good, man. But they see the head scientist guy take one of the snow cats and leave, and they're like, what the and the American guy's like, so what, he's gonna freeze out there? And she's like, if it gets out, millions of people could die, literally the apocalypse. So they go in their own snowcat, and then she notices there's an earring on the guy, which is like her way of knowing like, oh, he's still human. So they go to the spaceship and then it starts to turn on, and we gotta give credit to the director because the attention to detail is crazy. If you see the opening shot of the original movie with the spaceship, there's like these flashing blue lights. So he kept it faithful to the original and they have the same flashing blue lights. Bro, you have to respect this movie, the attention to detail. And there's a lot of flaws with this third act of the film, but I really love the chaos and the epicness of the final act in this movie. Going to the alien spaceship, that is nuts. We don't get that in the original, and there's some bad parts, we'll get to it, but I mean, come on. Going to the alien spaceship where the thing came from? Tell me you're not excited. Anyway, she falls through one of the cracks and is in the spaceship, and this is where the CGI is really cool. Like, look at this thing. I mean, this is awesome. Look at that shit. The other dude is behind there trying to look for her, and he hears this hissing, which is maybe this is where he gets infected. And then we cut back to Kate, who sees this like weird Tetris block Minecraft types. Now this is where the CGI completely falls apart. I give it to you guys. This scene is dumb. Why did you have to ruin it? God damn it, studios, why? Because they originally had a pilot, the alien pilot, in this scene, and it looks pretty badass. I will never understand that someone made the decision to be like, nah, let's cut that out and let's put this Tetris Minecraft blocks in there instead. In what world does that make sense? They said test audiences didn't like it. Bull shit. The test audiences. Nobody likes this shit. The real audience, they don't like this shit. And then it just I mean, this movie really does shoot itself in the foot at the end. God damn it. Because you see the thing with the face of the guy, and that might be just the worst CGI of all time. Oh my god, it's bad. But then when it removes the face, the monster is actually cool looking. It just really sucks because they have really cool stuff and then followed up by really bad stuff that just overshadows the good stuff. But she hides in a corner where the thing can't get to it, and then she sees a grenade, so she gets the grenade, but she gets dragged out and then throws the grenade to the monster's mouth, which, funny enough, is like the exact same thing she does in 10 Cloverfield Lane. Like literally, she does the same thing. So she has now defeated 2 alien beings with a grenade to the mouth. And the dude shows up right on time and they both escape. And I'm assuming that that Tetris block thing was like the control room, because she throws the grenade and it explodes right next to it and the ship turns off. So I'm assuming that had to be like the controls of the ship. They're like, what the hell are we gonna do? And he's like, there's a Russian station 50 miles from here. He's like, we're gonna be okay. And then she notices that he no longer has the earring. So she's like, I'm gonna take the flamethrower and put it in the back. But instead, she actually takes it and confronts him like, you no longer have the earring, so you, and then burns it alive. And I like this ending because it kind of is beat for beat from the original, but they do make it different, right? Because in the original, it's 2 guys that survive and they just kind of sit there waiting for death, seeing if anything happens, and you're left to interpret whatever the fuck you want from that scene. But in this movie, there's 2 that are left, beat for beat the same, but this time she makes a choice because she has a sign that it's a thing. So she's like, F it, I'm gonna burn him alive. And then she's just left, the lone survivor, the final girl. And that's the movie. But it's not over yet because the end credits set up the next movie. But you see this helicopter land on base to check on them, and then you see this dog running, and this guy is just like, oh, we gotta go after the dog, which is obviously the iconic opening of the original The Thing. And don't feel the need to try to correct me that the original Thing is the Thing from the other world, the black and white. I know. Just shut up. And that, my friends, is The Thing 2011. I love this movie. I still stand by my opinion. This is a good movie. I don't get the hate. It's a great prequel that sets up everything beautifully for the original. I think it added some cool new things, some new lore. I think the monsters are still scary. They're still effective. The CGI is not as bad as everyone says. And it's just a fun watch that, in my opinion, holds up. It does stand the test of time. I rewatched in college. I rewatched it recently. I like it. What can I say? It's a good movie. And I hope, as I mentioned earlier, that with time, people will start to warm up to this movie and start to appreciate it for what it is. It's time. There's been enough time. There's been enough hate thrown at this movie. It's time to flip the script and start appreciating it. Let me know in the comments. Do you agree with me? Do you completely disagree with me? Let me know down there. Hit this video with a like, subscribe, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.